You're an amazing group of chanters today. Thank you for this.
Welcome to the Imaginary Song Hunt, a monthly meeting of modern minds to reanimate lost songs of the deep past. I'm Barnaby Brown, Steph's co-hunter and fellow ancient music obsessive. Because July has 5 Wednesdays this year, we've put together not one, but 2 episodes, both exploring the earliest known Christian hymn with musical notation, found on an ancient Egyptian papyrus of the 3rd century CE. In the first episode, we spoke to classical philologist and ancient music specialist Stefan Hagel about the hymn's historical context and took a closer look at the papyrus on which it survives, deciphering the ancient Greek notation symbols and learning about how scholars have tried to supplement the text and the music, filling in some rather large gaps. We also met Greek Orthodox cantor Anastasios Vasilopoulos to explore how the hymn has been taken up by modern Byzantine choirs. The differences between their 2 ways of singing the hymn are fascinating. Greek liturgical practice typically uses contemporary local pronunciation. Cantors don't reconstruct historical pronunciation. So you won't hear the vowel length distinctions or the pitch accents of ancient Greek. Stefan, however, is interested in reconstructing the pronunciation of the Roman period, which is why the words sound different in his rendition. It's not unusual to read an ancient text with a modern accent. A less extreme example would be Shakespeare, which we rarely hear in Elizabethan English. The difference is more extreme, however, with ancient Greek. You have 8 centuries of evolution here, not 4. But in both cases, the advantage of modern pronunciation is its familiarity, as accessible now as it was then. Lovers of historically informed performance are drawn to the challenges of reconstructing period pronunciation, but we can also appreciate the very natural and powerful sound of singers who render ancient texts in their native dialect, with inflections and ornamentation that are instinctive, rooted in a cultural inheritance that is magisterial. We begin this extra episode with a brief run-through of some of the principles of Stefan's reconstructed pronunciation, talking about what a 3rd century Christian might have sounded like. That leads us to a conversation about syllable length and the marching anapaests of the text. Short, short, long, short, short, long. Then we delve into parallels between this Christian hymn and other surviving texts, which have helped scholars and cantors to better understand its spiritual message and to inform our creative speculation. What could have been sung where the papyrus disintegrated? With Stefan, we explored parallels in Mesomedes and Synesius. Then Anastasios introduced us to the Cherubikon, another ancient Byzantine text which shares some striking and beautiful parallels. We even had the pleasure of learning how to chant the Ison, the Byzantine drone. Anastasios was extremely patient and a gracious teacher. Join our Patreon to hear the full recording. It was a deeply moving experience. Is there any indication of what pronunciation of Greek there is in this papyrus, or what would a performer now who is not a native Greek speaker, how would you recommend we approach the pronunciation of this?
Yeah, we have a fairly good idea of how Greek pronunciation evolved. So most of the letter combinations we think we probably know. There's a slight, well, not a slight, there's a real uncertainty about the letters that we transcribe as PH and TH and CH or KH. The three aspirated letters, whether these were still the P, T, and K as they had been in ancient times, or whether they had already moved towards F, Th, and Sh as they are pronounced nowadays, is open to debate. So in the West, we get evidence for F at least quite a lot earlier than this period. On the other hand, in the East, we get evidence for the hard pronunciation is P and T and K even much later than this. And this stands in between, and we can't really say. So we might go with a more traditional, but about the rest, an I would long have been an E. An eta would have moved quite the way to the eta, which is nowadays. So, well, would you like me just to read a few lines from that in the pronunciation I would suggest?
Please, that would be lovely.
Yeah, please.
Okay, perhaps start where it's less lacunose. I'll start here after this large rest sign. We are pretty sure what the text might be. And I'll use the more traditional pronunciation for the aspirated consonants. Nun don dimon paterakion kagion pneuma. Base dynamis epiponum don amin amin. Kratos enos aike doxa theodotirimon no panton agaton. Amin, amin.
Thank you.
And it's definitely got a rhythm. Are you giving it a rhythm very conscious of the meter?
Oh, if you read the Greek correctly, the meter should emerge by itself. We know the short and long syllables, and there's only some syllables that might be ambiguous and that need to be pronounced according to the meter. I don't think we even have such an example here in those few lines. No, we don't. So, if you read it in terms of what Greek was supposed to sound, it's quite easy to see this is anapaestic. So the basic foot is short, short, long. And two of those feet are taken together in units because after at least two of these feet you find typically word end.
Right.
So when I say short, short, long, that might also mean long, long, which takes the same time value. Passe, dynamis, epipon, don, that's always two of those units.
Yes.
In certain types of anapaests, it might also be the opposite, long, short, short, interspersed with the other thing, or even four short sometimes. So, but the most important thing is 4 time units to the smallest unit, smallest metrical unit, and then there's 2 of those metrical units to form something larger. And that would be typical. So 2 anapaests to an anapaestic meter, but it's not marked like that here. So here each anapaest is marked on its own by 2 dots on one part, and then the second part without dots. So half of the 4 units are the weak parts and half are the strong parts. And here that starts nicely, bottom on, short, short, long, dot, dot, no dot. So the idea would be, if I step to the meter, I would step on mon. Bottom on, rotion, passe. And then there's a rest. And that's already quite interesting because normally we don't get such rests which stand in for part of the anapaest. Anapaests are normally supposed to be complete. So that's the first characteristic that makes it stand apart from other anapaestic songs we get.
So, in other words, there are anapaestic songs going back centuries before this, but this is unusual in that the words, there's a rest, there's a musical rest, and you don't find that happening in earlier anapaestic song?
You don't find it normally happening. So if we start from start of the tradition, then it's a marching meter. So we know it. We have kind of Spartan marching song where you, after those 2 meters, you have always time to breathe in and then march with the next 2 meters. And the song is all about not sparing your life while fighting for your city and so on. So a very warlike thing. Then we have this as the typical kind of marching rhythm in ancient tragedies. So when the chorus moves forward, they sing in anapaests. And all those are always complete anapaests. And then in the Roman period, so much later, anapaestic songs become something very, very common in religious song. So we have instances of Christian poetry, but also of non-Christian, Gnostic-like poetry that proceeds in a kind of anapaests.
And does that suggest that it was marched or processional?
I don't think so. I think that's just a new way of using that. And we have anapaests, and now comes a name that is very important also in understanding this piece, I think. Mesomedes of Crete. So he's famous for composing some short hymns to gods and also poems of different kinds. And we have these in medieval manuscripts, and we know who he was. He was a court musician at the Roman court at the start of the 2nd century. And he's exceptional in that he's basically the only poet whose musical works were transmitted not only as poems into the medieval ages, but also with notation. So we have 4 of his songs of his collection with musical notation.
This is a musical notation that survives because it has been copied and copied and copied. It doesn't survive directly from the 2nd century. It's been copied in Byzantine manuscripts.
Yes, it's been copied. And I think it's been copied again because it was in school books, because it was something that everybody knew for a very long period, so it was still widely available when they made musical copies in the Byzantine period then. And why can we think so? First, these are very simple songs by Mesomedes, nothing very fancy, no extended melisms. It's all in the very easily manageable range. It's in simple scales as well. There's no chromatic, which would point to the theater. It's all diatonic and so on. But most importantly, we have a reference, and here comes another name that is immensely important in our context, which is Synesius of Cyrene, who lived about a century after our papyrus. And he's probably one of the most beloved people of classic antiquity. So he was
a bishop.
Well, he was also a bishop, but mostly he was a wealthy citizen of North Africa. He was very well educated. He studied in Alexandria with famous Hypatia. He went to Constantinople on behalf of his city to get the tax cut. So, he got a deal there. He was the master of the deal. He went back. He understood himself as a philosopher. He also wrote hymns. We have his letters, many of them. And then he became bishop. That was not his idea, but everybody else in his city thought he should be bishop because he could deal with things. And he could also deal with the barbarian incursions from the south, from the Saharan region that had plagued his city and the other cities for a while back then. Yeah, so he became bishop, somewhat grudgingly. He had some complaints about Christian orthodoxy, which he refused to teach in its full form. He wanted to remain the Neoplatonic philosopher who combined, he had always been Christian, but he combined his Christian faith with Neoplatonic ideas about what God is and how this might fit in with Christ.
He wanted to he agreed to become bishop, but he wanted to stay married to his wife. Is that
absolutely,
right?
yes. That was also very important, and he proclaimed his plan was still to sire a lot of children. So he did so. But also he was a person in an age which he felt was falling apart. A civilization that was slowly going to shambles.
Relatable.
But also, yeah, absolutely relatable. Yeah, and he wrote hymns, extensive hymns, and one of the first of these in our collection is also written in Anapaests, of those things coupled form. And that's not just that short as our papyrus is, but that goes on for over 700 of those verses, lines. That's long. And it's absolutely Christian, and it also contains motives, which we find here. It contains the motive of cosmic stillness. So while we sing, while the community of the saints, so the Christian community sings, the cosmos remains in all motion, all cosmic motion ceases. That's a motive that also was strongly connected with midnight. So we find it in later Jewish tradition also, the idea that at midnight, for an instant, at least for a heartbeat, the cosmos ceases to move altogether. But we also have it in earlier pagan literature. We have it in a hymn of Mesomedes. Not one we have the notation of, but one that had notation once.
Right.
And in one of his letters, Synesius cites Mesomedes, another hymn, to Nemesis. And he says that's what we sing to the lyre. So when he was educated, he learned to sing Mesomedes to the lyre, probably in an unbroken schooling tradition from the 2nd to the 4th century.
Amazing.
What an amazing joining up of the dots, all these elements.
Absolutely. And so we got Anapaests in Mesomedes in the special form. We got Anapaests in many of those Christian and other kind of mystic religions around thought. We got Anapaests in Synesius. We got Anapaests in other Christian writers when writing hymns. So that's just a hymn-like meter. So here our hymn fits perfectly in, but also it's got those special Anapaests with a rest instead of a syllable. So it's a bit more than that. And then there's the rhythmical question, the big rhythmical question.
But if it's Anapaests and it's regular Anapaests, what's problematic about the rhythm?
Yeah, the problem comes with the dots. So if we look at the second part, and perhaps we don't need to share the screen now, but the second part doesn't get its dots where they should be. So we think Anapaests basically two shorts, one long. So the long is the strong, the shorts are the weak. So the dots should be over the place where the shorts are normally, even with the second.
So we're looking at the score here. Which line are we on?
Perhaps you could share the screen.
Okay.
Nice to look.
Let's share the screen again. we're still fine around here, but Terra, Kyon, Kagion, Pnel, Ma, and then we got that rest here, and after that rest, it just proceeds regularly, but the rest somehow interferes with what's happening. So when it goes on Ma, Pnel, Ma, rest, Pa, oh, well, that seems okay. We could say the rest would be the double short. But then with the following Se, word end, dynamis, epiponunton, we see that the pattern changed. Dynamis, short, short, long, epipo, short, short, long, and it goes on like that. And the dot now is not on the double short, the dot is now on the long. So it changed, it switched the rhythm as it is notated, switched to the opposite.
Wow.
Now this has been explained away. Willington Ingram had the ingenious idea that the problem is with the rest here. So the rest as it's written just shifts the rhythm, but if we would perform the same thing and have a rest of twice that length, so not only 2 time values but 4 time values, and would go on then we would get regular Anapaests until the end. So the idea was whoever copied the note signs here mistook a 4 times rest for a 2 times rest, then went on in transcribing this, and then continued to place the dots at regular intervals, and so those got shifted by 1 time. That sounds good, but personally, I can't imagine that happening.
Why not?
Why not? I can't imagine the writing process here.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's somebody actually copying the notation, they would just copy the note signs together with the dots. So the copy from which they would be copying would have the dots, and so they would just take each note or each compound of notes, copy that to the right syllable, and that would have a dot or not.
Yes.
So if we think of it in modern equivalents, the dots would serve the same function as modern bar lines do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you copy a piece, you would not first leave out the bar lines, and at the final stage insert bar lines again, and then perhaps jumble them up. Nothing you do.
Wonderful. I'm fascinated by the idea of the dots corresponding to bar lines. Can I just ask, I'm a little bit confused or not quite sure, Stefan. An anapaest is short, short, long. Now, are you 100% sure that the bar line, as we understand it in the 21st century, that the bar line would be on the long, or might the bar line be on the short, short?
Well, the bar line is a modern conception. So the ancients had no similar conception. So our bar lines are meant to be followed by an accent.
So
that's not how the ancients thought.
What you mean by bar line, Barnaby, is as in something that we understand as coming immediately before a downbeat, and then the downbeat is analogous with the strong.
Yeah, if it was accompanied on a lyre, it's where you would put the chord.
The down.
Yes, and it's important to understand that that's not the ancient way of conceiving rhythm, as in something starting with a downbeat. So in modern music, we may start a piece not with the start of a bar, but with the end of a bar, and then we just make a bar line and before the first downbeat. That's our trick. That's not what nothing in the toolkit of the ancients. But when the ancients put together their parts of a rhythm, they always started with the start of the thing.
Yes.
But they did not necessarily start with a downbeat. So it's
Understood.
the other way around. So the downbeat
exactly
might
like
be in the middle of the unit, in the middle of the metron. So metron is composed of 2 feet or 1 foot, and the foot itself is divided, and then you may have the downbeat in the first half or in the second part. You don't know that, so you clarify those with the dots. You don't see the meters, you only see the dots, and you must assess the meter from those dots if you want to, but that's a theoretical endeavor. You don't need to know about the meter, you just have the rhythm in the dots anyway. So you know where to put your imaginary downbeat. Doesn't need to be anything physical. It's in your mind, it may be in your body, it need not be audible. Of course, if you strum the lyre and you learn to play with probably strum down there.
And of course, if it was being sung by a community on the move, then we shouldn't assume that they were walking in time. They might just have been walking higgledy-piggledy without a rhythmic walking, but singing in time.
Well, have you ever encountered somebody singing and not walking in time? I can't imagine that. I think people automatically fall in time when walking, even when they listen to music, much more when they are doing music.
I certainly do.
Yes. Okay, accepted.
Yeah.
So maybe their feet are falling on the long syllable.
And that's what Anapaestic would normally have been. But here what we've written in the second part is a deviation from that. It's inverse.
Yes, so, but back to that, I'm assuming that you have an alternative theory to
well, I don't have an alternative theory. I just propose going with what's written here, because I can't see how this could, in practice, be due to a mistake. Because I can't see a copying process that actually does what it's supposed to do to explain that mistake.
And isn't it fun to switch things around? I mean, having worked with composers, students, they're always switching things around. So do you think that if this is an intentional kind of reversal of the accent?
I think it's perfectly possible, yes. Yeah. Why not having that? I mean, it's a kind of rhythmical modulation, a kind that would not be unknown to rhythmical theory, so why not have it here? We have no other instance. We wouldn't know in any of the texts, of course. We don't assume that in the early Anapaestic texts we would have something like that. But in the Roman period, we can't tell without the dots, and we only have the dots here.
Would you mind just demonstrating this switch in emphasis, or in where the...
Yep. Okay, then screen sharing again, right? So that's a computer-generated transcription directly from the ancient score. So again, I'll just start here. So we have a rest here as well, but that's the regular rest. That's the weak part of the Anapaestic. Nothing we normally get, but we can easily understand it. Good. I'll share Pullman West edition. So the one I don't agree with completely. So here you get the idea with the prolonged rest. So here a 4 times rest has been introduced where the papyrus writes a 2 times rest, and therefore all the rest is nicely in phase. But if we take it as the papyrus says, we would get rest. Hymn, don, temon, patera, kuion, kagion, pneuma, Ase, dynamis, epiton, nunton, amin, kratos nosa ike, doxateo, dotir, rimono, panto, nagaton, amin. Which I think is perfectly doable. It's not strange in any way. It only shifts the energy in the last part to the double short part of the rhythm.
A modulation, a kind of transformation that in fact some composers may have, or a musician may absolutely prefer.
Yeah, I agree, yes. I think it's doable. I think it's it's in line with the evidence. There are many alterations in ancient sources we need to make. So often you find ideas of let's go with the original where it really doesn't work. And of course, copyists made mistakes. But then we need to be able to explain those mistakes in a natural process.
Yes, absolutely.
Where there's no way of explaining that, better look for another explanation, like going with the original.
Yeah. Yes, better to not to encounter something that doesn't fit with what you're expecting and then write it off as a scribal error. But better to kind of take it at face value if there is an obvious reason or way in which a scribal error could have occurred, and adjust your expectations to match the source rather than changing your understanding of the source to fit your expectations, because our expectations are so limited anyway. We're very lucky to be able to chat to you today, Anastasios, because you are part of a very ancient singing tradition which can claim a descent from the type of music that was being sung at the time that this song was written down. Can you explain maybe what the connections are between the imagery of this hymn, or the language of this hymn, and other texts in the liturgy that you're familiar with?
Yeah, certainly. So some thoughts that are triggered in the cantor's mind or the researcher's mind around such early texts is probably wondering what the purpose of this could be, because we don't have any other source of the same text, and honestly, we don't have a lot of hymns or texts that we're certain that they were sung in a very specific way from that era. No. So I believe that trying to make to find a resemblance, or trying to identify any similarities around this would bring us to what we could call ancient services. And I believe the core of services is the liturgy. So what in our tradition we have as one of the earliest liturgical texts of a liturgy, so a service of the offering of the body and blood of Christ, is St. James liturgy. St. James is, we call him Adelphotheos, which means brother of God, but he was considered of the family of Joseph, so he's one of the kids of Joseph, and he is the first archbishop or patriarch, if we want, of Jerusalem. So he more or less has written this liturgy, which is quite extended in length and tiring for people. And it's not the liturgy you will find if you go to the church on Sunday. There is this very, very loved, at least by the musicians, hymn, which belongs to the category of, we call it papadiki. So papadiki is the really slow sang hymns. So it could be just a paragraph, and it could take anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on the speed that we want to have in the whole liturgy. But it is the reason you have this papadiki, and we call it papadiki meaning priests, priesti, is that because you sing this very slow, because the priest inside has to pray with very large extended prayers on very sacred moments. So one category of such hymns is Cherubikon. Cherubikon is from the word cherubim, so these angels that have 6 wings. And we have Cherubikon when it is the moment where the priest takes the gifts, the bread and the wine, to bring them as bread and wine from the side of the altar throughout the congregation and go on the center, on the holy table, and then we will pray so they will become blood and body of Christ. So this initial, let's say, preparation and this progression in the church takes time. And while all this preparation and prayer and progression happens, we chant what we call Cherubikon hymn. So usually the Cherubikon hymn is known to everyone and it's a specific text. But for this liturgy of St. James, the Αδελφόθεος, Άγιος Ιάκωβος Αδελφόθεος, that's how we call him, Jacob, okay, is different. It has different words. It's much lengthier. It's not a small paragraph. It's a big paragraph. That's the difference. But in terms of music, it's superb. And now what I can just sense is some keywords from that very early hymn. This comes from the 1st century. There are some keywords that are almost identical to keywords that we find in this earliest Christian hymn that, do some synopsis in a chanter's head, which is like sigato. So we have here, sigato is one of the certain words. It's not one of the imaginary words.
Yes.
So the certain word, sigato, means be silent.
Yes.
And this actually is the first word of this hymn by Άγιος Ιάκωβος Αδελφόθεος, which says sigisato, which means the same thing, silence. Everybody silence. Sigisato, passa sarx vrotia. So every sarx body of vrotia, of human, stay silent. And stand still with fear. And something similar we see in the earliest Christmas hymn. It says Britanio, because of someone very high significance, Britannis, is present, probably. Britanio, right. Because we don't know the previous text. Yeah. It says sigato. So because of Britanio, because of Britannis, sigato. Everybody stop, everybody silent. Μη δάστρα φαέσφορα λαμπέσθων. Not even shining stars, άστρα φαέσφορα, φαές φως, φόσφορα. Phosphorus? Mm-hmm. Phosphorus means the one who brings shining light. So φαέσφορα is stars φαέσφορα, shining lights. Lambeston, μη δε lambeston, not even shine. So people hush, stars stop shining. Everything stands still. In a similar way, the Cherubikon of Saint Jacob Αδελφόθεος says, sigisato, passa sarx vrotia, και stito, stand still. Shall we go to the text there?
Yeah,
We can find it over there. So it says, sigisato passa sarx vrotia, what we said, και στήτο μεταφόβου και τρόμου και μηδέν γήινον, nothing earthly, ενεαυτή λογιζέστο. Nothing earthly, λογιζέστο, λόγος, λογισμός, thinking, nothing earthly being your mind. So it's a direction that goes deep, not even your mind, something should move. And this has a lot of resemblance to the early hymn of Oxyrhynchus, which again invites us, not rivers to flow, not stars to shine, everything stands still.
So you have noticed this fantastic sort of symbiosis or connection, possible connection between the 1st century hymn that you still sing and probably have sung for 2,000 years in your tradition,
yes,
and a 3rd century hymn, maybe composed 200 or so years.
Or earlier. We don't know when exactly, but earlier than that for sure.
That has fallen out of the tradition. It hasn't survived in oral transmission, but we get it on a bit of papyrus.
Exactly.
Could we hear the one that even the 1st century one?
Yes, please. This looks like music notation.
The squiggles.
Yes, let's look at the squiggles. This book here, is this something that you sing from in services? You use these squiggles?
Yes. So this practically is a book that is a collection of different hymns. It's a practical book, let's say, that has collected different pieces of music from different books to make it a useful tool for the liturgy. So this book is just liturgy, and it has, let's say, cherubikons in different modes. It has kinonikons, other slow hymns in other modes for different dates, for
singing
different
at different times of year, different festivals.
Exactly. So this one here is for,
Film.
of course, be my guest. This is, it says, το Αγίου και Μεγάλο Σαββάτο, because usually this Cherubikon is also sung on the Great Saturday. So just before Easter, on the Vespers of Easter, so Saturday, the day before, we have a Vespers with extra liturgy, which is a rare thing. It happens sometimes, but usually Vespers is just Vespers. But in such a big celebration, we have Vespers with liturgy. And in that liturgy, again, we sing Sigishato. The other time in the year where we have the liturgy of Saint Jacob is on his veneration day in October.
Right.
So
We'd love to hear it.
yeah, of course. So let me just invite you on the cantor's psaltery. So usually the central cantor, the prime cantor, stands in the middle.
Okay.
And then his helpers join him on the sides, depending on how many and what experience they bring. The more experienced will go closer. And the younger
stand very
students.
far away then.
No. It's musicians are always welcome because at least they can do the ison. Now the changes of the ison, so the bass line, might be a little tricky because you get carried away by the movement of the voice of the basic cantors. But if you have at least one experienced ison chanter, then it really becomes easy because you have someone driving you.
We don't have one of those.
Well, it's okay. Well, let's try. Let's try. I think once we chanted with Barnaby, and he was good at it. He was
You're very generous.
Look, you're very good when there are not a lot of changes, but the changes are challenging for everyone. So there are cantors that cannot, easily change the ison when they have to do. So let's try.
Let's give it a go.
So let's say I'm the first chanter, and you can raise this and come closer, and please, you're welcome. And now we're rotating this, and now we are at the moment where the priest will say a last prayer that is overheard to everyone, and this gives us a sign now that we will say after he finishes, στους αιώνας των αιώνων, to the ages of ages, and we know that this is a point where we say Amen at his tone, because the Amen is an answer. And then we will start. The first chanter will give what we say the idea of the mode. So it will be a short phrase, which is the phrase for plagal first mode.
It says it?
Yes. It's P lambda, plagios. It's read this way, this one, only this one. So plagios, and this is from alpha, protos. So first plagal mode, and it will be on the note A, which is re. Okay, or D. So, and I will say the idea of the sound, so it will give everyone the direct or indirect message of where the bass will be and what the climacal will be, what the ladder will sound like. So I remind them.
You call it the ladder?
Yes. Climax. So after I finish this small phrase, which for Papadiki, this phrase is long. So it's like a line like this long. I know it by heart because I should know it by heart. So after I finish it, I show to the ISON people, now hold it. But before I finish, they hold nothing. So it's like in silence, you just hear the line. The idea of the sound goes around the church, it's embedded, and 90% of the cases, we will end with that note. And this is exams. Because if you don't end on the same one, it means that you did something wrong. It's okay, nobody will notice, but some people will notice because they know music, and it's okay. You're always under stress. Just okay. So for plagios to protouf, plagal first, it's aneanes. So if it was a quick one, we would say aneanes, and that would be enough. But this one is papadiki, so it's slow. So I also give them the sense of speed. So it will start like we just said amin, anywhere, but now I need to know the length, the extension of the music notes, and it should be within my range. And then, depending on the choir I have and their extension, their range, I might transpose a little bit, because you have a lot of tenors in my team. I might go up, and even if I cannot reach that note, I know they will. So it's a good thing that the team has worked together and they know each other, their strengths, and the central cantor has all this responsibility to arrange things in a way that makes sense. So, to make a secret, sweet transpose to thee. Thee is soul.
Oh. So there's a sign showing it?
No, there is not. That's why I tried to send you in the week earlier some notes about this, but I didn't, so apologies for this. But here, there should be a sign saying, now go there.
Okay.
As this one. This says pa.
Okay.
Here it says pa. Sometimes it's just a dart saying follow, but you don't know how to follow, so don't. Just keep pa, whatever you don't know. Now, even here, if you keep pa, it's okay. But if we had another one, a more experienced ISOM holder, they could change to V, and that would mean I have a chanter chanting, and I have an ISOM holding pa, and another ISOM holding V, which is amazing.
We need another.
Do we have another
experienced?
Well, let me see in the congregation, because sometimes I do that. Because there are some musicians in the congregation, they are hiding. And they're hiding because they know that the chanter needs support, and they will look at them and call them, and then they come a bit ashamed not to come. They don't want the people to look at them, they're tired, they have babies, whatever. But they go like, come on. No. So it's
emergency,
things happening.
emergency.
It's things happening in life. So I hope I can see someone. Please, could you please help us a little bit? Yes, whichever path you want to choose. That's my daughter who came to see us here today. Yes.
Come here.
Please come on. Because she's more experienced than you now. She has this position.
I've been displaced.
But we will still welcome you, so you will stay next to her.
Hello. Hiya.
And please stay close, because we need the new chanter wannabes to stay close.
The wannabes.
Should you come beside me?
Yeah.
Practically no, because she needs to be next to Regina, so that's a practical thing. Just stay that way, so you hear her changes and you might follow her. Whereas we'll leave Barnaby with me here, where I can reach him in case of mistakes, and that means that he can hold the pa, whereas you girls can go to the V and do the change. So can we try again?
Pa and V are pitches like do and.
It's re and sol. So it's easy to go. Okay. So it's an easy change. But for this change, you can stay on Pa.
Okay.
But the ladies here can go to Sol. So here, then we will all follow. This is La. So it's Re, Sol, La, and then you will stay for there, and then at some point you will all go back to Pa. So
do I stay on Pa while they go up?
No. From then on, we will all go together.
Okay.
This change when we have a second ison is a bit rare, and it's in cases that I will show.
Fine.
But if we want to explain this, we need a bit like 10 hours of recording.
Oh no, let's not do that. I'm just going to copy Regine.
Yes.
Sphaghias